Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. The Storyteller podcast often covers sensitive topics, including true crime, violence, and other disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised. We also tend to drop a few swear words along the way, so if that's not your thing, consider yourself warned. For everyone else, let's get into the story.
Welcome to Storyteller, where every episode is a blind date with the bizarre. From true crime and dark history to ghosts, folklore, and conspiracy, I dig up the unbelievable, and Teresa hears about it all for the first time. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Teresa.
Do I have a story for you?
Ooh.
Welcome back to Storyteller. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to, I don't even know what to call this. It would be like true crime, dark history, weird, everything. So we'll just see.
Just a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I like it.
And this may be our first two-parter.
Ooh.
It might actually be three.
We're back in Montana, by the way.
Yeah. If we seem sad, it's because the Montana outside right now.
The wind. It's actually really beautiful outside.
Yeah.
The wind is horrendous, though.
It's a windy season in Montana, and it takes it out of you.
It lasts all year. The windy season lasts all year in Montana.
Sometimes it's windy and hot. Sometimes it's windy and cold.
It's always windy.
Sometimes it's windy and leaves hit you in the face. That's where we're at right now. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just windy and windy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it gets to you after a while.
So here we be.
Here we are. So yeah, I think I'll just start, and then we'll see what category we could possibly put this into, because I don't really know where it fits, but it is something that I've always been fascinated by. So we'll see. So imagine a little girl curled up in her grandmother's lap, safe in a world of fairy tales. While her mother's hands delivered only abuse, her grandmother's voice spun magic. Family legends woven with destiny, faith, and a divine purpose. In those moments, the girl who wore an invisible crown, and she was certain that she belonged to something greater, a dynasty that was 6 generations deep. But crowns tarnish. One night, years later, that same little girl, now a mother of 8, was on the phone whispering through tears to her brother 300 miles away. Her van barely had gas. Its plates deliberately expired to keep her trapped. She begged him to meet her at dawn at a convenience store only 2 miles down the road, but she was convinced she wouldn't have enough gas to get there. Her voice cracked as she left him with one final plea. If I don't show up, please come looking for me. Please do not leave without me. The harrowing story of Carolyn Jessop's escape from the FLDS, or the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, is unimagimaginable, shocking, and pretty impressive.
With that first intro, I thought you were going to talk about Anastasia.
I was like,
a lost princess and everything. I'm like, we're going to talk about Anastasia. Except for her mom died, so I was like, that was...
No. Yeah. So
something cool though, just saying.
Yeah. I do love
really
that.
cool too now.
Yeah, the whole Romanov dynasty is we'll probably get into that at some point, because it's all fascinating to me. Yeah, so Carolyn was from a 6th generation of polygamous family who was committed to their faith and community. At 18, she was married to a prominent FLDS man, Jessop, who was 50 years old and already had 3 wives.
Mm.
He sucks. We'll learn more about him. They all kind of suck. But Merrill was an asshole. He had a favorite wife. One of his wives, I think...
If you have a favorite wife, then why even bother with the other ones? Like, why?
There's so many parts of this whole thing that I'm like, now, why are we even bothering with this?
Yeah. So, just take the one. You got the one. Yeah. You like her. Yeah. You guys get along well.
Yes. And he, favored her to extremes. Then he had one wife who... I think was definitely one of the first 3. She'd got very old. She wasn't bearing children anymore. She sat inside the house in her room. She actually would only come out of her room at night and stuff because her kids were grown and out of the house.
Yeah.
And Meryl, when she was older and she had dementia, I believe, he just left her on the side of the road. He just kicked her out of the van one day and was like, bye. And someone of her family, I don't know if he called like her grandson or something, but a family member had to come get her. And
So
then,
rather than just letting her live her days,
yeah,
like tucked away in her room where she wasn't bothering anybody.
Yeah.
But he probably needed that room for his new wife, for a new one,
who
for
knows?
another one.
Yeah. So he just drops this wife off, and then just to show how skanky this guy is, he sucks. When that wife passed away, she had been like, her family was very prominent in this area. She had lived a long time. A lot of people knew her. Her funeral was so big that Time magazine covered it, and Meryl was like, oh, my precious, I think Fanita was this wife's name.
Fanita.
And so he's like, oh, my precious Fanita, everyone loved her. And I'm like, you abandoned her on the side of the road.
Yeah, you didn't love her.
Yeah, so that's just some background on Meryl. He sucks. So he's 50 years old. She's 18, and Erie has 3 wives. From the second she was married, Carolyn learned that the glowing threads of the fairy tales her grandmother had spun of this religion and the privilege of serving God through polygamy were lies. Absolute lies. Pretty quick.
Can't imagine.
Yeah. After years of living in a toxic world, home, marriage, and religion, at age 35, on the evening of April 21st, 2003, Carolyn looked around and realized 2 things. One, her husband was away from home with his favorite wife. He took her with her, but he's out of the home. And finally, all of her children were in the home with her, which was uncommon because she had a 15-year-old at this point, and I think 8th grade, they're like, you're done at school, and they forced them into, they do all their building and stuff. So this kid was out working a lot of the time. So her son was not usually home with the rest of the children.
Okay.
But at this point, he was. So, and in an event of true divine intervention, this unfolded in front of Carolyn, and she had the 2 things that she needed to escape with her children. So she was like, I'm out. Carolyn slipped from the house around 11 p.m. to her sister's house, and she used a phone to call her older brother, who had left the FLDS 4 years earlier and lived in Salt Lake City, and who said he would leave immediately and drive the 300 miles to rescue his sister and her children. They decided to meet at the...
Was her other sister still part of it, though?
Yeah, but it sounds like she was very disenchanted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was just wondering if she...
I don't think she was the whistleblower.
Okay.
Yeah. So they decided to meet at the convenience store only a couple miles from the house, like 2 miles from where Carolyn lived with Meryl and his 6 other wives at this point. She knew her car was running on fumes and made her plea to him that if she wasn't there at the 5 a.m. meeting time to please come looking for her. She knew she was not turning back, and if she wasn't there, something or someone was holding her back. So she's like, you need to come looking for me. Carolyn returned home and parked her car next to the French doors that exited her bedroom. So that's another thing that had to have helped so much. Like, you can just leave your bedroom, like pack up and She quietly went through the house and gathered 2 changes of clothes for each of her children, their family pictures, and medications for her 4-year-old, a little boy named Harrison, who had severe nerve damage from cancer. Harrison couldn't walk, talk, and he was still in diapers. So not only is she fleeing with 8 kids, one of them is like, needs a lot to get him out of the house and to care for him. He needed oxygen at night and a battery of medications. At 4 a.m., Carolyn started waking her children, ages 18 months to 15 years, under the ruse that they had to take Harrison to the doctor. And seeing how they were all together for once, it would be great to go get a family portrait done after we leave the hospital. At that point, yeah.
When she went to her sister's house, she didn't have the kids with her then?
No, she just...
Okay.
Yeah, I think she had put them to bed, and she was like, I'm going to moonwalk out of here quick, set up some things, sneak back in. So the children were not awake at this. She's just kind of trying to quietly... And she does say in her book... the doing laundry and being up at night wasn't weird for the sister wives because there's so much laundry to do in a house with how many wives are we up to? 6, 8?
6.
And they all have kids.
Having kids.
Yeah. And so Carolyn said she always wanted to do her laundry at night. So her being up and like moving around wouldn't have been the thing to like tip them off. So she's trying to get all this together. And that's what she starts waking up her kids. She says, we have to take Harrison to the doctor, which he was always at the doctor. So that wasn't, but going to get a family picture afterwards, the kids are like, Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's 4 a.m. Like,
She make him dress all nice and everything. Like, get up, get dressed.
put on your nicest clothes. Yeah. So as the excited younger children and annoyed older children started getting dressed to leave, one of Meryl's other wives cornered Carolyn's 12-year-old daughter, Betty, and we'll talk about Betty later, and asked why all of them were leaving at 4 a.m. What you doing? Which is fair.
Picture day.
At 4:20 a.m., the wife called Meryl, and at 4:25, Meryl called Carolyn's father to question what in God's name Carolyn thought she was doing packing up her children. Her father had no idea, and along with him, she had thoroughly fooled and taken Meryl by surprise, as he could have never thought she would escape with Harrison in his condition. So she didn't, like, her father wasn't in on it because she's like, I didn't want to get him in trouble because they'll punish your family if you leave, you know. And so her father was telling the truth, and he's like, I have no idea. Also, Meryl probably never thought she'd leave when this little boy is so sick, you know. And Carolyn had slept with Meryl just 2 days before, which in the eyes of a man is like, she loves me so much. She ain't going nowhere. But the element of surprise was wearing off fast as Carolyn loaded her children into the van. Harrison clipped into his car seat at last. Carolyn turned the ignition and turned around to count her children. Betty was missing, the 12-year-old.
Betty.
Betty. There's a lot of times in this story that I'm like, Betty. Carolyn ran back inside to find a furious and crying Betty, who accused Carolyn of doing something wrong. Why didn't father know what she was doing? Carolyn dragged Betty from the house, screaming, and got her into the van. As they pulled the van away from the house, Carolyn had won the battle, but not the war. As she creeped through the dark and quiet streets of the community, she had new obstacles to dodge. One being the Watch Patrol, or the God Squad, as it's called in this area.
Seriously?
Because, and we'll go more into this, but this community is called Short Creek, and it's the border of Utah and Arizona go right through the middle of the town, and this town is all FLDS, or at least it was at this point. And so the FLDS hired all of the police officers, so they were just doing... Yeah.
But what are they hired for?
To be police officers, but they are just they do whatever the prophet tells them to do. Yeah. It's crazy. So
it was like there a curfew like in this town, and if people were out past curfew,
there's nothing written down.
Stone them to death? Like,
well, there was nothing probably written down, but one thing was, if you see a woman driving alone at night, they were like, red flag. That was a big no-no.
Okay.
So the Watch Patrol, an FLDS patrol dedicated to patrolling for women, doing exactly what Carolyn was attempting. If she made it out with attracting their attention, she also had to elude the police force in Short Creek. So there's the God Squad that is like actual people driving around for the prophet, security, they call them. And then there's the actual police department, which is still hired by the prophet. So
okay.
It's a nightmare, yeah. They were all FLDS members and would look for her after one phone call from Meryl. So all it took, from her prominent husband, everyone would be looking for her. Finally, like a beacon of hope, Carolyn could see the lights of the convenience store in the distance, right as her van sputtered to a stop. The gas fumes finally went away. She told her children, as she was sure there would be some nice people to help them to get out of town up ahead at that nice convenience store. She ran to the convenience store and ran into her brother's arms. He was sitting there waiting for her. Thank goodness. Yes. Her children loaded into her brother's SUV, and her van loaded onto a trailer he brought. They started towards Salt Lake City and potential freedom. The first 20 minutes of the ride went smoothly until Betty realized they passed the turn for St. George, where Harrison's doctors were, and continued north. Betty screamed, "You're stealing us." She went ballistic. She went ballistic and screaming, and Carolyn calmly told her, "I cannot steal my own children." Betty leveled another accusation at her mother. The FLDS cult's deep brainwashing spewed from her as she told Carolyn, "We do not belong to you. We belong to the prophet."
Wow. Maybe she should have taken a vote. Like, who wants to be in the family portrait, y'all? And I don't know.
I would have been like, just leave Betty, I think. Betty seems like a handful.
Betty would be the only one to be like, I don't want to be in a family. Not if without my dad. So, let you know. Just leave her behind. I'm sorry, Betty.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Betty stays out of, until she turns 18. When she's 18, she was like, I'm out. She went back to the FLDS. So how did the FLDS go from the chosen people, from Carolyn's grandmother's story, to the cult we know today, with many, many women fleeing in the dead of night, just like Carolyn did? Well, we're going to get back into one of my favorite stories, and that's how Joseph Smith was like, making a church today.
Does he talk to a salamander?
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Tell me
the story. I'm curious.
Well, way back in the 1820s and 30s, a young Joseph Smith, and I do say way back, but compared to other religions, Mormonism is relatively that's so new.
It really is.
Yeah. So the story of Mormonism does begin in the 1820s with a farm boy named Joseph Smith in Western New York, a place buzzing with religious fervor during the Second Great Awakening. So he was like, everybody be talking about religion. I'll just make my own. Yeah. At 14, Smith was desperate to know which church held the true doctrine of God. This desperation, mixed with an unusual family pastime, Joseph Smith's dad, Joseph Sr., and his sons would spend part of the warm weather months treasure hunting. Using various divination tools, including seer stones that, when viewed at the bottom of a hat, are said to convey special sight. So Joseph Smith was like, I just got my top hat. I picture him out there with an Abraham Lincoln hat, and he's got some pebbles
in there.
Yeah, and he's like, oh my God, what did I find? Years later, he would claim that an angel had revealed to him the location of ancient gold plates buried near a hill near his home. In 1827, when he was finally able to obtain them, thanks to the seer stones and the old hat trick, that gave him special sight.
That good old trick.
You know the one.
Use it all the time.
Yeah. So he's got his hat, he's got his seer stones, and with that special sight, he's able to read the ancient gold plates.
Gold plates.
He's like, got it. And by 1830, Joseph Smith had published what he called a translation of those plates, the Book of Mormon.
But where are these plates at?
I think I have that in here. Maybe I don't have it in here, but basically once he got them, once his work was finished, he said the plates were returned to the angel. He was like, I had to give them back. No, you can't see them.
So they're nowhere around where we could look at them and translate them ourselves.
No, with our own seer stones. Yeah,
that's not convenient or anything.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, so he got his, dictated all the.
It's fine. Just old. Okay.
So he finally gets his manuscript translated, and he had to return the plates to the angel. Lost forever to human hands.
What angel?
I think that's the angel Moroni. All the names are so funny. I don't think I have anything about the salamander in here, but I feel like there's a salamander.
I do.
Involved.
I feel like there's a salamander or newt or something like that. Like the angel came to him in the form of a salamander. I don't know.
Here's the magical place.
I do. I feel like I remember a salamander.
But
or a newt. Either
Who
or.
knows what they call it. Yeah. In the 1820s, Joseph Smith claimed that with these new revelations, chief among them the Book of Mormon, would restore true doctrine to a new church. By 1829, he was baptizing converts. By 1830, he had formally organized the Church of Christ. To his followers, Smith wasn't just a preacher, he was a modern-day prophet. That's where the real trouble began.
So this is way before the whole taxes thing and everything. So he's not just making a church to get out of paying taxes like I want to do.
No.
Right?
Yeah,
okay.
no. He was like, well, I think...
By the way, join my church.
It'll be fun.
It will be.
I really think this guy was like, I can just search out some power by making a church. And then after a couple of years, he was like, oh yeah, the angel said something about multiple wives. So I think that's where not the tax thing quite yet. Later, FLDS really has some fun stuff going with taxes. But this guy, I think, was like power and... Yeah, because I think he was poor growing up, and so he was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna be poor no more."
And then once the multiple wives came in, all the guys were like, "That sounds amazing." Okay,
converts off the charts.
I'm going to do the same thing, but I want to make it so we have multiple husbands. Take that.
And I don't want any of them to talk to me, except for my favorite.
I just want them to support me.
Tithings.
Yeah.
If you will. Yeah. So yeah, he, with this prophecy came some conflict. Neighbors in Palmyra, New York, and surrounding towns reacted with suspicion and hostility as Smith's movement began to grow. To escape persecution, the early saints, soon to be known the Mormons, pushed westward, first to Kirtland, Ohio, and then to Jackson City, Missouri, where they dreamed of building a permanent New Jerusalem. Missouri.
Where does the name Mormons come from? Like, where did they get that? Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. He was not making up. If you're Mormon, don't come at me. Okay. It's my opinion.
If you're Mormon, could you please comment and let us know?
Yeah, that's fair. We would like to know, like, where that name came from. And, like, I mean, there's angels, I think the angel Moroni. And then there's angels like, I think, Nephi. They almost always sound very, like not supernatural, sci-fi-ish to me. Some of the angels in Mormonism, I'm like
Michael.
They were like, we have cool sounding angels. Also, there's different planes of heaven and up in the sky, and you get to go to a different plane of heaven. Yeah, so I'm like, it's very Star Trek-y.
Maybe it was an alien.
That would be dope. I would, yeah. I would listen to a little bit more about Mormonism then. I think. I'm not like being a bitch about Mormonism. I don't like any religion there.
Except for mine. Join.
It's going to be cool. We're going to wear dope pantsuits.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to look like country singers in the 80s up there.
That's a new one to me, but okay, I'm down.
Sorry, I've been working on that in the background. That dream didn't last. In 1833, violence drove them out of Jackson County, Missouri. By 1838, fighting escalated so fiercely that the governor of Missouri issued an extermination order, forcing the Mormons to flee the state together. So
Nobody likes these guys.
No, from like start to beginning or start to end.
What is it about them they don't like? Just the whole like gathering thing? Like
maybe that might be like a little bit freaky for people when there's just this horde of people coming in. And I wonder if I put down the date. Like, and I think around this time is when Joseph Smith is like, I had the one wife. I'm gonna go for two. So I wonder if people are like,
okay. This
big weird crowd comes in. They're all
and they want to marry all the women.
Yeah, so probably wasn't like going over it. There goes the neighborhood. So yeah. So they've got to flee Missouri. So they found temporary refuge in Illinois, purchasing and renaming a small town. They renamed it Nauvoo. So another wild name, Nauvoo.
After the newt. Nauvoo the newt.
This is our mascot, a pet newt. For a brief moment, the movement flourished, but peace was fragile. By 1844, tensions with their neighbors once again exploded, and Joseph Smith was killed by a mob. Yeah.
Dang.
He went down in Illinois. So his death triggered a bitter succession crisis, threatening to tear apart this very infant church that he had just built in the last 15 years. After Joseph Smith's death, the largest group of his followers turned to a new prophet, Brigham Young, which I think a lot of people, probably even more so, have heard of Brigham Young. Yeah.
Yeah, because of
the
BYU.
college. And
I was like, just BYU itself. Like, I mean, even if they don't know who Brigham Young is, they've heard of BYU.
Right. Yeah. So, and I was on like his wiki page and stuff, and it just
wiki.
Oh, yeah, it listed all the shit that's named after Brigham Young, and I'm like, okay, wow. He just went, all right, full court press with the naming shit after him. Under his leadership, thousands of Mormons trekked westward, eventually settling in what would become the Utah Territory. It was there that the church openly embraced one of its most controversial practices, plural marriage. Smith had introduced polygamy while they were in Nauvoo, but in Utah, it had become central to the faith identity. To outsiders, it was shocking, even scandalous. And by the mid-19th century, polygamy wasn't just a religious issue, it was a political one. Congress fought fiercely to stamp it out, threatening the very existence of the church as a legal institution. So Congress was like,
Yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah.
That's good for Congress.
Yeah. So the practice fueled resentment across the American West, sparking some of the harshest opposition to Mormonism in states like Idaho and Arizona. Finally, in 1890, when it became clear that Utah would not be allowed to be admitted to the Union while polygamy was still practiced, church president Wilford Woodford
That's a mouthful.
issued what would become known as the Manifesto, declaring an official end to plural marriage. So that's what I always thought that was just really great of Congress. They were like, you're not going to become a state. Like, you have to get rid of all the wives.
But they still practice it. So they just basically like lied. It was like a secret thing. Like,
yeah,
we're going to say that you're not allowed to do it, but then we're going to continue doing it.
Yeah. So the story didn't end there. For some believers, the revelation with this manifesto was a betrayal. They broke away, forming smaller groups, Mormon fundamentalist denominations that continued to practice polygamy in secret. By the 1900s, early 1900s, the LDS Church. And so when you hear LDS, that's mainstream Mormon. That's what we know as the Mormons today. And FLDS is the Fundamentalist.
Okay.
Yep.
Cushion just slipped. Like, for real, it wasn't some weird metaphor. My cushion really did slip.
So yeah, early 1800s or 1900s, the LDS Church was under intense pressure to prove it had abandoned the plural marriage lifestyle. In 1904, it issued what became known as the Second Manifesto. Really just naming that shit. Just this time with its teeth. Any member who continued to enter or perform new plural marriages would face excommunication. Yeah. But not everyone accepted this decree. Those unwilling to abandon polygamy soon began gathering in remote places where they could continue their way of life. One such place was Short Creek in the Arizona Territory. Later, the community would hold on to a powerful prophecy. During a visit years later, Brigham Young himself had pointed to the dusty settlement and declared, "This will someday be the head and not the tail of the church. This will be one of the granaries of the saints." I don't know if I'm saying that right. I've never heard that word before. This land will produce...
Say it with confidence and say it right.
Yeah, you're saying it wrong. This land will produce... Gaslighting. This land will produce in abundance sufficient wheat to feed the people. For those who stayed, Short Creek wasn't just a hiding place. It was a destiny. So that's how this group, came to be in this area. The community of Short Creek thrived in the desolate area and lived in plural marriages for decades without interference until the 1950s. Just before dawn on July 26, 1953, the quiet desert community of Short Creek, Arizona, awoke to the sound of boots and trucks. Over 100 officers from the Arizona Department of Public Safety, backed by soldiers from the Arizona National Guard, swept through town. Their target? A settlement of around 400 Mormon fundamentalists still clinging to plural marriage.
Why, though? Who gives a fuck?
Exactly.
It's just like today's day. I don't give two shits if,
Yeah.
a man marries another man. I don't care.
I don't care.
Why does it matter then? Why
Yeah.
does it matter now? Who gives a fuck? God, it's so annoying.
I have big problems with it now, but we'll learn why, because it's gotten real gross and stuff. And I think their big thing during this was, one, we told you that was illegal. Like, knock it off.
Yeah.
We told you couldn't do that. The other thing is they were like, they're just having all those kids so they could be slaves. And I was like, were other kids protected during the 1950s?
Yeah.
Were they doing whatever the fuck their parents told them to? I was like, so I think those were kind of the things that they were flying with. But the people of Short Creek weren't caught off guard. Someone had tipped them off. And when the authorities arrived, they didn't find a town in chaos. Instead, they found families gathered in the schoolhouse singing hymns. Children played outside in the early light, their laughter drifting through the desert air. It didn't matter. Everyone, men, children, and women, were taken into custody. Time magazine...
For what? For what purpose?
Practicing polygamy.
What were they going to do with them, though? Are they going to keep them in jail forever?
Right. Did you guys have
for practicing polygamy?
What was the exit strategy of that?
Are you going to keep those kids locked up? Are they going to go into a foster care system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like a lot of them, they were like, we're going to give you to somebody else. Okay?
It sounds like wasteful spending.
Yeah. That is so rude. They took everyone to custody. Time magazine would later call it the largest mass arrest of polygamists in American history. Authorities seized 164 children, scattering many into foster care. Some would never make it back home. Arizona's governor, John Howard Pyle, defended the raid as a momentous police action against insurrection. He called the community a conspiracy designed to produce nothing less than white slaves. But not everyone agreed. Newspapers condemned the raid as odious and un-American, and for the first time, national outlets like Time and Newsweek painted polygamists in a sympathetic light. So this raid that was meant to crush Short Creek had the opposite effect. The community endured, and by 1960 had a new name, Colorado City.
Good, because that's like once again, like gross government overreach.
I mean, it's not like the Waco thing where they were stockpiling 1 million guns. Like they were just.
And was there any proof that they were raising the kids to become white slaves? What? It is a very cultish religion. I will say that, but if they were in their little community, not bothering anybody, they're like.
Well, and I think back at this time, they were actually like living by some morals, like some, they were just marrying a lot of people and having a lot of babies, and then they were just providing for their families. Like
I will say, like I do draw a line of like they're marrying off like 12-year-olds to 50-year-olds and stuff like that. Is one thing, but these are and again, back on this, everything that I read, like the 1950s raid, there was none of those kind of accusations flying around that they were marrying children. So I don't know. So it really had an adverse effect that, Arizona wanted it to have. And then also it shaped the relationship between state powers and these polygamous communities, resulting in a community that was always worried over the threat of a state's power over their individual rights. And but that like deep-seated was taught for the next generations. And it was such a deep mistrust that was built in, so no one trusted the outside world. I mean, these guys don't want to go to a hospital. They don't want to ever talk to a police officer. They're essentially have been told since this happened that police officers are evil. So down the line, when there's a woman in trouble, that's not an option in her brain. She's like, so it really, it just for generations, like a generational trauma that really fucked up a lot of people. So. Yeah. Well done.
Great job.
All
everyone.
because you didn't like who was marrying who. I'm glad we learned a lesson with that.
It would shape generations for people within this religion and community. They would be too afraid to ask for help from law enforcement when they needed it most. Decades later, I have been referring to them as the FLDS, but they were called some other things, but finally in 1991, they established, like formally, they're the Fundamental Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so the FLDS. So just a little tidbit there. So after their excommunication from the LDS Church, powerful men in Short Creek banded together to form what they called the Council of Friends. This council, 7 high priests who claimed to be governing priesthoods of a body on earth, took control of the community's spiritual and daily life.
They have a more of a problem with that than them marrying a bunch of people. The fact that they're calling themselves priests and like they're like, yes.
And also no women. Yeah. Also
that's what I have the problem with.
In this, I might be off in this. This may have, if it did change, it only changed recently. But like the Mormon Church, mainstream Mormon Church, doesn't allow like men of color to be a priesthood, like or a bishop. Yeah. Okay. And so. The FLDS is hella racist. Like, I do not care what I say about them. Like, they are super. So, yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, it's just these 7 guys. We're in a club. So, one man would preside as the leader, but decisions, especially about marriages within the community, were made collectively by this group of 7 guys. Then, in 1942, under John Y. Barlow, the man who would later be seen as the founder of the FLDS Church, a new system was born, the United Effort Plan, or the UEP. On paper, it was about living an old Mormon principle known as the Law of Consecration, which old Mormon principle cracks me up because I was like, that was like not even 100 years ago.
Yeah. So like, what, like 50 years ago? What are we talking about here?
It was told by our, A communal lifestyle where property, land, and even businesses were pooled into a single trust. In reality,
Oof.
yeah, it gave church leadership absolute control over everyone. Yeah, homes could be reassigned.
Don't like that.
No, homes could be reassigned. Land could be seized. Members lived at the mercy of those above them. But the most
So if you had like a little argument with your neighbor and he was like one of the 7 high priestess or
Right.
whatever.
Ew,
Yeah.
get on out. Yeah, I'm taking your shit.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Fine.
yeah, it seems not stressful or anything. Yeah, but the most consequential shift came with the introduction of what was known as the one-man rule. According to this doctrine, God spoke through only one man, a prophet. Nothing ever good comes out of that. And the prophet alone now decided the most intimate details of all the members' lives, including who one may marry. So just one guy. There was no council of friends. Just an old dude is like,
You get to marry me. Oh, you get to marry me too.
oh my God, you're so cute.
Oh, you?
You're getting married and you're getting this marked the beginning of a community where loyalty, obedience, and marriage itself were no longer personal choices, but acts of submission to the will of one man.
Yeah, see, this is where I have a problem with
Yeah.
it and everything.
Yeah.
And
So
sorry, I'm just going to check something real quick. I'm curious about that whole little salamander thing because I swear I've heard about it before. And
So when John Y. Barlow died, leadership passed to a man named Leroy S. Johnson. Under Johnson, the doctrine of the one-man rule only grew stronger. For 32 years, he presided over the community, years that would later become remembered as a time of relative stability, financial success, and even a measure of public acceptance. So during his prophetship, I don't know what you call it, they were like, things were pretty lax. Like they would work, their companies, their FLDS companies would work with outside businesses. Like they weren't as afraid of, Gentiles. That's what they call us people, Gentiles. And so things were going okay. They had like little parades and stuff. So it was an okay time for being in a cult, I guess. Yeah.
something I found about Newt and LDS churches, Newt Gingrich made comments about the LDS church.
Right.
They have
exactly.
significant political influence.
that's-
I swear I've heard a story
I
about
feel
some
like
like
there
a
was
salamander or
something,
something like that.
especially with those gold
So,
plates. So
yeah.
we'll do some more digging there. I
Like the salamander told him where to find him or something. I don't know.
Well, this will definitely
driving
be
me
multiple
crazy.
parts.
Okay.
So I'll look into that. So, but after Johnson's death in 1986, a new era began. His successor, Rulon Jeffs, a retired tax accountant, formally incorporated.
I like that.
Incorporated Short Creek as the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the FLDS. But under his leadership, the church amassed considerable wealth, consolidating it under the United Effort Plan, a trust that now owned nearly all of the community's homes. So like they were working towards that under the other guys, Barlow and Johnson. But when Rulon Jeffs came in, he was like, "This is what we're doing. I own everything, and I'm the one making decisions."
So when I start my church, I am going to be the one making decisions.
I will be doing wardrobe.
But I'm going to need your mom in on it. She's a financial
Okay.
advisor. And then I also need a tax person too.
Okay,
So
yeah.
if you guys could come on.
Yeah, let us know.
And Brian, if you have a tax accountant friend that you can bring along with you.
We need all the people. Outwardly, life under Rulon Jeffs appeared calm. FLDS businesses lined the highways, serving outsiders, while members quietly worked in the nearby towns and cities. But inside the community, new teachings began to reshape daily life. Jeffs preached what he called "keep sweet." For women, this meant that just obedience, all right. It meant erasing every emotion except one. Anger, grief, fear, all had to be swallowed and hidden. Sweetness alone was permitted.
So you can just be sweet all the
Keep
time.
sweet.
Just
Gross. When Rulon Jeffs built his house in Short Creek, because he actually lived in Salt Lake. That's where he raised most of his family. But they kind of all consolidated down in Short Creek. And he had like the chimney of his house had "keep sweet" down it. People would write "keep sweet" on the soles of his shoes. So when he sat back in a chair, all you would see is "keep sweet."
gross.
It's real gross.
How many wives did this guy have?
In the 60s, yeah. There's always conflicting things, but he was definitely in the 60 wives range. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he nasty. It was doctrine that demanded silence, and it laid the foundation for an even greater control yet to come. So, there's a very good documentary on the FLDS on Netflix called Keep Sweet. And by good, I mean horrific and upsetting as you learn what these women go through. But it does a great job of showcasing the end of Rulon's reign as prophet and how the next prophet was setting up his future as...
How do they determine these prophets?
Well, they're supposed to be, from what I can tell, like when Rulon was getting sick, he should have named someone. He should have said, like, this is... But he never did that. And then I also was listening to something where the next prophet has to be a bishop that, again, the original who is prophet now sent. Well, Rulon never made any new prophets or assigned anyone, no, prophets, bishop. And then he never said who would overtake him. But don't worry, because, this documentary really shows the end of Rulon's reign and how the next prophet was setting up his future as the next prophet as Rulon declined. This man is Warren Jeffs, Rulon's son, and a grade A douchebag, like to the highest degree.
Oh, of course it would be like family member.
Well, and again, Rulon never like says he's going to be it.
Yeah.
But there's Rulon's the end of his life. He had a stroke and he was not, and Warren just swooped in there and was like, I'm father's mouthpiece. And so he could just do what the fuck he wanted, you know? So, so some people interviewed in the Keep Sweet documentary say that they really enjoyed being part of the FLDS when Rulon was the prophet. They had celebrations in their community, Short Creek, and in Salt Lake, where there were quite a few FLDS practicing plural marriage by hiding in plain sight in Salt Lake City. So there was a ton of they were just like, we can't all go out together.
Yeah.
You know. There was even an FLDS-run school in Salt Lake City called the Alta Academy. So they are having these celebrations, parades, putting on skits, singing, playing instruments. The women also have more freedom during this time. They could wear whatever they wanted as long as they were covered wrist to ankle. Dad ankle. One of the women in the documentary comments, and there's even a picture of a group of women from this plural family camping, and they're all just wearing jeans and their flannels and their vests, you know, they look pretty normal. And women could have jobs, they could attend college, they could return to teach or be midwives in the community. But by the late 1990s, Rulon Jeffs had retired from his accounting practice and moved full-time to the twin communities of Hilldale, Utah, or in Colorado City, Arizona. And they would just call it Short Creek. So those two. Yeah.
Okay.
There, surrounded by his followers, he was revered as a prophet and a patriarch. But in the final years of his life, everything began to shift. After suffering a stroke, Rulon was left bedridden, dependent on those around him, and that's when one of his many sons, Warren Jeffs, began to quietly he got power. He controlled who could and who couldn't visit this ailing prophet, going so far as to ban his own brothers from seeing their father. In his final days, Warren issued new decrees and orders insisting that they came directly from Rulon, though few ever heard the old man speak to them or speak anything. Like, he would like prop him up in the front of like the meeting house for church, and Warren would do all the preaching, and then he'd be like, it's all from Father, and Father, apparently Rulon is like, he's weakening and burning this guy.
Remember when we watched Lord of the Rings and the King?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So it was,
That's what I picture.
I'm just doing what Father wants. I'm like, Father doesn't know his own name. So by the time Rulon Jeffs died on September 8th, 2002, Warren had already become the de facto leader. His succession as president and prophet of the FLDS was immediate. For some in the community, the transition felt a bit abrupt and unsettling. But any unease would soon eclipse what was to come next, because Warren Jeffs was just not another prophet. He would leave scars on the FLDS community darker than anything they had seen before. And that's where we're going to stop for part 1.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, please tune in next week for the rest of the story of the FLDS, from when Warren Jeffs takes over and kind of his background and how he was raised to what's going on in the community today.
Yes, and if you're a Mormon, please comment and let us know about a salamander, number 1.
Yeah.
And number 2, like, where did the name Mormon even come from?
Where did we get that?
I'm sure we could Google it, but I kind of want to know, like, what you guys.
Fill the comments. Let's
Yes.
do this. So,
Show us that you're out there and alive.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.